What is going, guys? My name is Seeds, and welcome to Feeds Mindset, episode number 17 with Pikachu Bolt. Pika, how are you? Welcome in.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I appreciate your time being on here. You actually just got out of work. It's a crazy time frame, but I really appreciate your time being able to fit this in and stuff and just kind of be heard and be out there for your community.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So something that I always point out, especially I'll do this for a long time in my podcast, is that me and you don't know each other. We, again, this is kind of we knew each other like a couple days ago, but as far as talking, I mean, this is it. I'm going to say this every single podcast because I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, being able to collaborate, getting out of their skin, being able to reach out and be that first person. I feel like a lot of people, kind of struggle with that. So I make it a point during my podcast because I feel like it's very important because, if me and Pika can do it, so can you guys too. So yeah, just something I always bring up. So, before we actually get into the, legitimacy of the podcast, let's kind of get an idea of who Pika is. How would you describe yourself as current day?
Uh, if you've ever seen the meme of the dog holding a cup of coffee while the building is burning and it says this is fine, that is what I'm living by, and that is me.
That's
I'm
funny.
very chaotic and bubbly, so that
Do
is
you have
definitely
any
what you'll
like
see.
mainstream games that you play or anything?
Valorant was the game for a while. Before that, it was Kingdom Hearts and the Super Mario series. It's kind of what I'm gonna slowly go back to as
Mm-hmm.
well.
So would you say you're kind of like a variety streamer in a way right
Oh
now?
yeah. Oh yeah. Variety all the
Gotcha.
way.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, that would be funny to see your like stream starting screen. It'd be like all the SpongeBob's when everything's on fire and they're all just kind of like running everywhere. It's like our stream starting, our
Yeah.
stream starting. Oh
That's how I
man.
look running around getting ready for stream as well.
That's so funny. So yeah, I want to get to know a lot about you and to get a better insight for your community to kind of get an idea of the kind of creator you are. So let's kind of go back in time and let's figure out how all this transpired, how Pika's here today. I mean, how did you get into gaming and understanding this kind of community?
Gaming, I watched my sister play Kingdom Hearts on the PlayStation 2, and I kind of just watched her play that a lot. We had a Nintendo 64, so I played a little on that. I didn't really start gaming myself until I got like a Game Boy, and
Hmm.
I was playing like Pokemon and Mario, and so like those were the two games I kind of stayed by until Kirby. And then it was like Animal Crossing. So probably around the Game Boy time is when I started, and then in 2018 is roughly around the time that like I got into PC gaming.
Okay, gotcha. So when you got into PC gaming, I mean, how did that transpire? I mean, did you get a PC? Did you have to purchase one? Was it a pre-built?
So I built my own PC with my mom in 2018, and that was like the start of everything. Like I can't go anywhere without my PC. I built it when I was home and I was going out of state for college. And so I stayed a semester without it, and I was like, I can't do this. I need my PC because I had a little Surface Book. I was playing games on that and trying to stream on that, and I was like, nope, I want my PC. So that is the PC is what ruined me.
Yeah. So what games did you start out with?
It was mainly Minecraft. So I played a lot on my Surface Book when I was in school, and I also played Dead by Daylight. Um, I tried to play Apex, but that was not having it. I tried playing CS:GO, very learned quickly that I cannot aim. So that didn't last long. And it just stayed with Dead by Daylight, and then I played a few games of Watch Dogs for a little.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean
So
you're
yeah.
you're really variety,
Oh
compared
yeah.
to the other guests that have been on the podcast. I mean, have you like really touched COD much at all?
I think a total of 2 or 3 times just to play with Redhead Vixen, and I think every those certain times was me screaming, "I don't know what I'm doing. Red, did I do it? Red, are you proud of me? What is happening, and what gun do I use?"
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, just like I said, I mean, COD is such a such a normalized game, and I feel like that's kind of, COD is just something that's on kind of everybody's gaming resume. So it's intriguing to know
Nope.
that you didn't really have any at all, and you
Nope.
also got into CS and Valorant before you really even touched COD. Is kind of
Yeah.
crazy and probably offensive to those communities, I would say. But I mean, to each their own, So before we kind of get up to more of like the streaming and all of that world, I mean, was there any games that like really kind of made a big impact on you? That like
Kingdom
really affected
Hearts.
your life? Okay, how did that
Kingdom
help you?
Hearts. It it's hard to explain, but it really just helped me connect with my sister a lot, seeing her
Mhm.
play it. And as we got older, she played it less, and then I started playing it. And I always stayed up to date with it. I bought Kingdom Hearts 3, and like I listened to the music all the time. I will admit, the first time loading Kingdom Hearts 3, I cried listening to the intro and watching the cinematic. Um, it's just the mixture of Disney and Final Fantasy, along with like the storyline. It's just very beautiful and amazing and a great story. And I understand like some people aren't really into it, but like I always say people, you need to like try it at least once.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely. I mean, I kind of get into the same story with mine. So my top three games, my two and three is from the Fallout series. It's kind of Fallout New Vegas in particular of the Fallout series is like technically like my favorite one, just because I've spent so many hours on it and was just so intrigued by it. But as far as like favorite game, I always say that Final Fantasy 12. Anybody that knows the Final Fantasy, it's kind of like really offensive to them. You're like, why not 7? Why not 10? Like, what's wrong with these games? And like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with them. Like they're wonderful games, and I played them all. But Final Fantasy 12, back in, and I've shared the story in the podcast before, but I don't mind saying it again. So back in 2010, I was in Little League baseball. Just my dad would take me around. We would compete in some stuff or whatever. And we had just got out of a baseball game like a day or two ago, and I think it was like the weekend. It was also summer for me. Like summer had just started. I was a kid. Like I was either in fifth or sixth grade, one of the two. I was 10 years old. My age kind of goes with like the years. So like 2023. I'm actually technically 24 now because it's like late. It's in August. I know that didn't really
Yeah.
like do the best for me, but usually when the years align, it's usually what age I am. So I was probably about 10 years old at that time at 2010. Um, and my mom and dad had just ended up in some type of financial bind where they just couldn't afford to pay the electric bill for a couple days, and so we used a generator to be able to watch TV and listen to the news and the weather and all that stuff. And we used it for probably about 2 or 3 days, like not like consistently, but like inconsistent but consistently. Like when we go to sleep, everything be turned off. When we wake up, turn it back on. And so one day they was done using it, and I think it was like 7, 8 o'clock in the afternoon on that day. And me and my brother, we was jumping on the trampoline. So me and my brother, anytime that it rained, I don't know what experience you have or anybody else watching with the trampoline, but when it rains, the trampoline is like the funnest time to jump on.
Yeah.
And so me and him was jumping on it, having a great time, just being kids, whatever. And my dad had, without thinking, accidentally threw a blanket on the generator, not thinking about it at all. Went inside and he shut the door behind him, and that slam caused an exposure to the generator with it being so hot and causes it to explode. And our house caught on fire, and it started with our garage, completely ruined everything. My dad burned his arm a little bit trying to get the cars and stuff out. And the rest of the house was fine, but it was all like really bad smoke damage. And so as a kid, house burnt down. We lived in this really rundown beat trailer that was on the same land, thankfully, but it was like not maintained at all because we just kind of let it sit there. We had to obviously go somewheres. And at 10 years old, I spent my summer in a rundown beaten trailer with my mom and dad arguing about bills, and because our life had just fell in front of our eyes. I mean, we was all over the news. I mean, house had burnt down. We lost almost everything. Everything was smoke damaged. All my clothes and everything was gone. And one of the few things that sacrificed out of that house fire was my PlayStation 2. My PlayStation 2, and most of I didn't have a lot of my games at the time, but because they were enclosed, obviously, smoke didn't get inside, so the actual disc were saved. But somehow, I don't know how, but my PlayStation 2 survived. And on top of that, it was a white PlayStation 2, so like half of it had like a big old like smoke mark on it. But it ran, perfectly fine. Didn't really make any noise, and we had like I think one or two like little tiny like box screen TVs in this trailer. And I went from my own room to living with my dad, and my mom lived with my sister, and my brother lived in the living room. And so sitting there on that summer, I was going through. I didn't have nothing to do. I mean, my phone that I would play games with or whatever, it was ruined. Mom and dad didn't have any money or whatever. So I just had to work with what I had, and that was either go play outside or play my PlayStation 2. And one of the few games that I did have was Final Fantasy 12. And I don't remember the specifics how I got into it, why I really wanted to play it. But after I started playing Final Fantasy 12, loaded it up, just kind of same thing, just like you said, with the cutscene and all the birds flying away and the beautiful music being able to play. It was just something that was kind of resonated to me. And my dad, he was out all the time, so it was kind of my room in a way, just not at nighttime because dad was there. But dad was always doing stuff, when the next day hit or whatever. He was never in the room. So I usually did have the room to myself. So that whole summer, I just spent playing Final Fantasy 12. And, as a kid, my life was unfolding. Like now all my friends knew what had happened. They was all judging me and looking down on me. And, I had no summer,
It's
I was in baseball, ready to go. And then my career just kind of went nowhere because parents couldn't afford to do trips or anything. And that had really got me through, that hard time. So, I do really love the Fallout series, but I just don't think that I could ever put a game above Final Fantasy 12 because it just did wonders for me as a kid. And getting me through that rough patch really helped kind of mold me into a, specific part of the creator I am today. Because when I realized the type of passion that game give me, now, like thinking about it now, like being a kid, I was like, if I was ever in the position to stream that, knowing how genuinely happy I was and smiling every single day that I was playing that game, like the impact I could have made on people would have been ridiculous. So that game definitely
Yeah.
molded me.
Oh. Well, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm glad Final Fantasy had that impact. That's kind of how it is for Kingdom Hearts.
Hmm.
So I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a good time for sure. But it had definitely changed a lot of things, for me and coming up. And I think that's kind of the important thing about it. I mean, it's a sad backstory, obviously, about all of
Mhm.
that stuff. But it did have a lot more meaning to it, and it kind of did a lot more positive than it did negative in a way. Because I mean, realistically, as a kid, I could have just loaded up a game and said this is boring and went outside. And it's like it wouldn't have meant
Yeah.
much, but I mean the the thing that I'm thankful for is because Final Fantasy 12 had so much compacted in it. It like lasted me at least 2 months to be able to play and learn
Yeah.
all these different things and do all these different tasks and stuff. And so I think that was really the main reason. It's not the fact that the game was enjoyable. It was just because the game had so much to do that was that time consuming. Because there's a lot of games that you can finish in like a day, and then it kind of be
Oh
like,
yeah.
even like GTA. You play GTA for like 2 days, and you decide to play like I don't know, like some of the side stories missions. Give it a week, and you're done. And it's like games just aren't like that
I
anymore.
lasted I lasted 10 minutes with that game.
I
So
mean,
yeah, I feel that.
yeah, I mean, do you agree though? At the same point, I mean, do you feel like new games that are really hyped up and get released? I mean, do you kind of feel the same way? They don't hit like they were when we were kids.
It depends on the game. There have been a couple of games where I wish I remember like which ones too. Like they get hyped up and everything, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the game I'm gonna be playing for a while. And I'm on it for maybe a few hours. I'm like, this absolutely was not worth it. I'm so sorry. She was
You're
yelling
good.
the whole time. Um, but there have been some games where I do go back and I'm like, okay, I could have kept playing this, and it really would bring back of like, damn, I wish games were like this a lot more.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same way, and I look at that game and other stuff, and even something simple like just some YouTube videos and stuff that I used to watch tons as a kid, and now as a creator, that's my biggest personal thing is I don't fake anything. I don't like reacting to something or playing something that I already know because I feel like that ruins the experience. And I was, you can clearly see that I'm not like as invested as I would be. And that is something that I'm like I don't really regret anything. But if I
Mhm.
could go back in time and give my little self some advice, I'd just be like, go outside for a little bit until you get some equipment, until you can actually do it.
Yeah.
Because I can, that's definitely a big part. Even to a certain extent, even with this podcast, I'm kind of running out of ideas as far as streaming and gaming and stuff. And like, I'm getting into just chatting and watching court cases and stuff like that, which is cool. But as far as like my career as a streamer and reaction videos and let's plays and stuff, there's so many games and videos that just don't interest me anymore because I already see
Yeah.
them.
It's also hard too, is like there'll be a game I'm really interested in, and I'll be like, I'm gonna play it. And then I go and buy it, or like I download it, and then I see someone play it, and then I don't want to play it because I've already seen everything. And
Hmm.
I've kind of ruined a few games like that already. And I'm just like, it sits in my Steam library, and I'm like, I really should play this. But I saw this creator play it, and I don't want to go through all of that again.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So I need to stop doing that.
I was the same way. I mean, with Outlast 2 when that had came out, I think it
Oh my
was
god, yeah.
it was either Markiplier or Jacksepticeye
Yep.
one. I
Markiplier's the one I
just
watch, and
not thinking about it at all.
he plays the games, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the game. I'm gonna play it." And then I end up watching the full playthrough. Like, I was on the verge of buying Security Breach, and I almost bought it, and I was watching his playthrough, and I was like, "If I buy it, but I finish this playthrough, I'm not gonna play it, so I'm gonna take it off of my cart. I'm just gonna watch him play it." And there's
Yeah.
been ample amount of games I've done that, and I need to stop.
Yeah, I will say on the flip side, one of the really cool things is to be able to play a game and genuinely enjoy it, and you finish it and everything. Like for me, like Resident Evil 2 and 3, like somehow I didn't watch any content on it, so it was great being able to play it, figure out the puzzles on my own, and then rewatch other big creators and stuff play it back. It's kind of more wholesome because now you're kind of like skipping to the good parts, or you're just kind of just watching just to kind of watch and chill
Yeah.
out and have food. And like I said, it's something that stinks because you can't really take it back. But I feel like that's kind of the advice that I want to share with creators like that are experiencing that right now, but have the tools to not make the mistakes that we did as kids. And I feel like that. I guess that's kind of like where I want it to wiggle the conversation into is I want to normalize it for creators. Like if you're genuinely like really loving a game but you're not streaming, not posting any content with it or whatever, and then you claim to be an aspiring creator that's so ready to go, like you're ruining it for yourself, because like that's such an audience that you're losing just because you want to game offline. But I mean, you're at your happiest, so like, why would you not want to turn the camera on or just click stream, not even with a face cam, just play the game for other people?
Yeah, I've definitely been in that position a few times actually, where I've really enjoyed a game, and I'll just sit here, and I'm like, what's the harm in streaming? Like, I hit start stream, like I don't have to have a plan. And I think that's the thing for a lot of creators, is that they try to have a plan. I've kind of done a good mix of, I say, hey, I'm gonna stream on these days, these times. I don't know what game, or I'm streaming these games these days, these time. Like, I have done events, community days. I've done a lot of stuff to where I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. And for a while, it was just me playing Valorant. I would stream, and it was Valorant. Um, and so making that switch away from Valorant, it was kind of hard because I was like, well, no one's gonna know what I'm playing.
Hmm.
So I would say, hey, I'm playing this game, and I think one day I was just like, it was 2 p.m. I was like, I want to play this game, but I also want to stream. Fuck it. So I played Day the Diver, and I streamed at 2 p.m. and it went a lot better than I thought it was gonna go. Um, and I kind of think back to that day sometimes, if I just didn't go fuck it, I'm streaming, because I love the game. The game was so cute. I still play it. Um, it was just like, I have nothing else to do, so why don't I stream? Like I get content, or no, I don't get any content, but I get to play a game and I get to have genuine reactions to it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some really good questions that I feel like I do want to ask and get your opinion
Mhm.
on. But before we do get to that, I do kind of want to touch back on, where you got your start. I mean, you started in 2018. You built a PC with your mother. You got into these kind of variety streaming games. I mean, how did you get into streaming? I mean, you've had all that experience. You tap into all these new things. So where did streaming come into play? And was there somebody that was kind of like the highlight to get you into streaming?
There was, and I actually got to meet her, and that was
Aw.
I cried a little bit after I like walked away from her.
Mm-hmm.
So around 2017, I started playing Dead by Daylight on the PS4, and that was the game I played for a while until I built my PC. My PC could handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I would go on Twitch and I was watching like Angry Pug, Morph, True Talent, but I always went back to Cauliflower. Um, if you don't know her, she's the horror queen. Um, she was always playing Dead by Daylight. Her community was always so welcoming. Her reactions were hilarious, and I couldn't get away from her streams. I still watch them today too. I follow her on Twitter, and I like love everything that she does. Her whole like plan for everything, it's just amazing. And that is why I wanted to start streaming. Was she wanted to create a community where they could just chill out and share the love of games and play games together. And I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And so I did that, but I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did it. And that's when I started streaming, I think in 2018. And then around when COVID hit in like 2020 time, that's when I started going like, okay, I can't just go, oh, I'm going to stream today, or I'm going to do this today. I have to actually have like some of a plan.
Yeah.
So that's roughly around the time I started taking it, like thinking a little bit more of to what I was doing.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had the same topic with a lot of people about COVID. I mean, COVID was such a huge time for everybody, and I mean, yeah, like there's a lot of negative impacts that COVID made, mainly, a lot of financial things. But on the flip side, I feel like COVID gave gaming the chance to kind of be revolutionized because I mean, even being a creator around COVID times, like I don't see it nowhere near as popping as it is nowadays. Like I feel like that set the tone for a lot of people, gave a lot of people the breaks that they needed. And it was just kind of a mental reset that nobody just thought that they needed, and they did. I myself was kind of in the same scenario. I mean, I was working for a call center. I was at my little nephew's, technically his birthday party, but it was supposed to be the next day. And my sister had bought him a trampoline, and she wanted help putting it together. So I came over and I helped put his big old trampoline together. And I'd get a call like right after we finished, and they had let me go, and said that the
Oh, damn.
contract was over. You're unemployed, and come to the office and pick up your papers and hope for the best. And at the time, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because it wasn't just a normal circumstances. I can't find a job, but now it was COVID circumstances. Nobody's going to hire you, because of how crazy
Yeah.
everything is. But luckily, with the unemployment rates in many different states and stuff, I got on that, and for about maybe 2 months, made about $200 to $300 more than I would usually make at my job, and so I saved up for a pre-built PC. Fast forward now, I have my own custom built PC and stuff. But that COVID was a mental reset for me too. Definitely gave me the utensils and abilities to be able to stream, take it serious, understand the world. And for me specifically, I mean, during COVID, that was my first time that I'd ever been on a PC at all. Like I didn't have no friends or relatives that had PCs or anything in the gaming world. And so that gave me the time to understand OBS and how it's set up and what frames do, and how important your CPU is and your graphics card and your drivers and your RAM and all these different things. If I didn't have that time during COVID, I wouldn't have understood none of that. So yeah, I think it's very important. I feel like, just like I said, I mean, there's a lot of negative impacts that COVID created, and my heart goes out to anybody that was affected, or any families that any family passings or whatever. But at the end of the day, you can't deny that it was a saving grace for a lot of people, and I feel like it did more good than bad. I just feel like for the ones that it did bad for, they now they just kind of have a grudge because they're involved, which is perfectly feasible. So yeah, so I mean that's great. I mean, shout out to her. I mean, that's sick. I mean, I actually recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, got to see there's these two creators, Divine and Blake. They both just recently moved in, live just a couple hours away from me. And I had recently got to meet them. And that was a really sick experience being able to meet them. Small tiny story of how we got together. We'd always planned on meeting up, just like everybody. I mean, you're always like, oh, it'd be sick to actually meet you one day.
Yeah.
And there was one day that I'd woke up and my dogs were barking like crazy. I have two dogs that are chained up outside, and they was barking like crazy under my fiance's car. And I looked under there, and there's a little tiny black puppy just sitting there, and and somebody had dropped him off. So I was like, I didn't know what to think. I was like, I don't know, to be mad, to be happy, or whatever. And he was an awesome dog. But we did recently. My dogs that were outside, they were inside dogs. We had them inside for about a year. And eventually they kind of got old enough where they was kind of too big for the house, and we let them to stay outside and stuff now. And we ended up naming the dog Inky. And turns out, I'm pretty sure he was a lab. I'm pretty sure. Don't know where this dog originated from. But we took him in, and I had him for, I think, a total of 5 days. Took him outside. He was a fantastic dog. I mean, you take him outside, he'd pee and poop right on the spot. He'd barely do it in the house, and this was a puppy. Fast forward, when Devon and Blake took him to the vet, they said that he was like maybe 7-8 weeks old. So that's the crazy thing for me, is how trained he was in such a small little time. Or maybe he was just an outside dog. I don't know what the situation was. He did have worms, which was a downfall. And I used to be in this little team a couple weeks ago that I had left to kind of focus more on content and stuff. And I'd posted a picture of him. I was like, hey guys, like, look at this crazy circumstance in my life. And instantly Blake was like, I want him. I was like, and like, everybody says that, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a cute dog, and he's like, no, I want him. I was like, I mean, if you're dead ass, like, we can work it out. He's like, I'm dead ass. I was like, oh, okay, sure. And so the night after, it was 3:00 in the morning, he woke up and he had just thrown up just a tiny bit on the bed, like a little, like 2 little water drops, and he threw up on the bed. And so I set him in the bathroom and was cleaning up and stuff. And he had pooped, and that's when we found out that he had worms. We was originally supposed to meet on Labor Day, and so that morning I woke up and I told him, I was like, hey, I know you guys have plans, and right now is not the best time, but I was like, I can't afford to take this dog to the vet. It wouldn't make any sense for me to take him to the vet because you would have to pay for a double visit because we're in 2 different states. And so I told him, I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I was like, if you can give just a little bit of gas money, I'll meet you halfway. And thankfully, where Blake had moved down to where Devon lives, it's like a 3-hour drive between us. So it was really doable, super easy. And so fast forward with all that, we ended up changing our plans, meeting like 2 days after the conversation, and got Inky a new home, took him to the vet. Everything was fine. He had just mild worms that were treatable, and everything was fine. But it's, the whole point of the story is how crazy one little circumstance can change everything. Because like I was upset at whoever owned him before and who had dropped him off in my house, and they had probably dropped him off because they seen my animals outside, because I maintain them well. I always feed them, I always take care of them, take them on walks and stuff. And so I'm sure whoever the neighbor was that did that, or just random person, I know they had good intentions. And so a part of me was really mad, but I was also glad that I was able to give him a good home. And now they had another dog. I can't think of their other dog's name off the top of my head. But she's been a single dog, like an only child, for years. And she was Blake's original dog, and now she has a friend. So that dog got a new friend. Me and my fiance, we went that day. And all 4 of us together, we took some pictures. I did have it pinned on my Twitter for a while, but I took it off to pin some other things. But we took some awesome pictures, hung out. We went and ate at Cracker Barrel, if anybody knows what that place is. Um, and we just ate, talked a little while, played with Inky, and it was just a sick time. And it was surreal because, aside from all the crazy circumstances of how we got there, I mean, everybody has that vision in their head, like, oh, it'd be so cool to meet them, and it'd be such a great experience. But like, once you're actually there, like, you never want to leave. And
Yeah.
we only got to spend like a little over an hour and a half with each other because Blake had work the next day and stuff. But now that we've met, like, we want to make plans to do it again as quick as possible because it was surreal.
I promise I'm not yawning.
No,
at
you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I do the same thing.
But that's so cute. I love that so much, and I'm glad that the puppy got a good home.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the most important part is that Inky was able to get a good home and have a friend on the meantime too. So yeah, but it's ridiculous. I mean, you come in. I guess what I'm getting at is, you come into this gaming space and you start meeting all these creators, and out of my wildest dreams, would old feeds have never thought that a random dog being dropped off at my house turned into going and meeting some of my longtime gaming friends. Like, you never know, and it's beautiful the way that kind of life pans out. So yeah, so you got into streaming, you met your wonderful friend that you was able to hang out with and get you into streaming. So now that we've kind of covered the grounds of how you started and where you came from and got into streaming, where did the name Pikachu Bolt come from?
So it's actually a really weird story. I had never had a gamer tag before, so Pikachu Bolt is my one and only original gamer tag.
Dang, the OG.
Yep. And I played. I got in Minecraft. I got to buy it. I was so excited because I saw all these YouTubers play it, and it was like, you need a name. And at first, I was like, oh, I feel like this isn't real. So I put in like the OG Minecraft YouTubers, like Captain Sparkle's name, just to like see if it was real. And it was like, oh, can't use that name, it's already taken. And I was like, okay, so it's real. And I was like, I don't know. And I love Pokemon, as you can see. Pikachu is one of my favorites. Eevee is a close second. So I was like, well, I don't want to just be Pikachu. And I was like, well, I could do like Pikachu Thunderbolt, but that just sounds weird. So I was like, screw it. We're doing Pika _Chu_Bolt. And that is what it has been ever since 2015.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's sick. I mean, now you kind of, I feel like having your specific name, because I'm sure a lot of people just call you Pika. I mean, that's a sick gamer name, just alone. I mean, it correlates obviously with Pikachu, and I feel like that's what a lot of people say, but that's kind of like, the cuteness of Pokemon is like Pika Pika, and like, so it is kind of cool that you have kind of that, phrasing of the name. And I think that's sick. I think it's a good name because not only do you have a little bit of story, but it means something to you. And I bring this up every time on my podcast when names mean something to people because it's awkward when they don't. But that's kind of what I get into is like, when you have a name, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really change anything whether your name means something to you or not. But it's just the little things, it's like looking at somebody like, Markiplier, and you're like, yeah, like your name's Mark, but like, where'd you get, a plier from and stuff like that kind of stuff is something, me personally, that's what I've always been way more interested in, is not the fact that you started from nothing and now you have everything. It's the fact that how did you get into this being like, I'm a creator and my name is Feeds, to now this is Feeds and this is what I built. And I feel like that's the kind of cooler side for me personally. I like that backstory a lot more than just seeing somebody hit like 1 million subs or something. I like knowing what your name means to you and how you upheld that, throughout your, content creation journey. So I think it's definitely very important that you have names and stuff that, correlate. So yeah, it's really sick. And, that's like I was saying, I mean, everybody knows Pokemon. I mean, if you don't know Pokemon, I feel like that's a sin. Don't you think? You think that's kind of like a gamer sin?
A little bit, yeah. I don't think I have met a single person that doesn't know what Pokemon is, let alone Pikachu. There have been plenty of times, like in Valorant lobbies, because my Valorant name is just Pika, and then they'll be like, "Oh, Pika like Pikachu," and I'm like, "Yeah, like That's me. And there have been plenty of times where in the voice chat they'll be like, "Are you a Pokemon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And then I'll make the little Pikachu sound. They're like, "What the heck?" And they flip shit. And I'm just like, they're like, "I'm gonna catch you in my ball." And I'm like, "And you're done.
Oh man,
You're muted."
it'd be sick if you could do like a transition of like the battle part, like on Valor. It's like Pika
Oh, that'd
Pika.
be so cool.
Dun, dun, dun. That's sick. So yeah, no, I mean that's sick. Like I said, I mean being able to have that background for your name and stuff is really important. So another topic that I did just kind of want to get your small take on and stuff. You know, I started at the end of this video, or at the beginning of this video, excuse me, by saying, you know, we are random people, you know, breaching those bounds, creating and collabing with people that you don't know, and trusting them with you and your content and your time. You know, for women creators, I always have to phrase it like this, you know, because it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is, and it needs to be normalized. You know, everybody needs to be heard. Everybody needs to have their own say, and you can't ignore things that are going on in the community, especially when it affects, you know, women creators so much. So for creators, you know, men or women, but, you know, specifically for women that have issues of, you know, what kind of people am I going to run into? What kind of hate am I going to get? You know, what's going to happen to my TikToks, to my streams, to my videos? I mean, what would your advice be to them to get out of their comfort zone, to start posting, start creating content, and just reach out to other creators?
Um, it's kind of hard to give advice when I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for me to reach out to other people, especially other creators, and either be like, "Hey, let's play a game sometime," or collab, or do something like this. Um, it's always been in like a group setting for me to meet other people. Um, when it comes to like content, like TikToks, I was very hesitant on posting. Like
Mm-hmm.
people would do like the transitions and stuff. So I dabbled in a little bit of that. And it was mainly my friends saying nice stuff. I don't think I ever really got a mean comment on it, but it always lived in the back of my head of what happens if someone says something about my image or how I
Mm-hmm.
look. So I always freaked out about it. I was huge on I have to have makeup on. I have to have mascara on. And I told you before we started this, I'm sick. I don't have the energy to wear makeup, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what you're getting. So it took me a long while to transition to that, but at the end of the day, it's all internet, and people can say whatever the fuck they want behind a screen, but like if they say it to your face, they're not going to unless they see you. Like whenever are you going to see user
Mm-hmm.
596780? You're not, most likely, unless like that circumstance happens. But like sometimes I was posting YouTube shorts. I would just take the TikToks and post them
Mm-hmm.
over. And one comment that always makes me laugh is Pokimane is cuter. And I was like, what is that? Yeah, she's cute. What does that have to do with a Valorant clip? Like, I don't. It's people just say the stupidest thing to get a reaction. So mute them, block them, delete the comment, whatever you have to do. Ignore it the best you can. There are stuff that I have had said to me or been said about me, and I'm just like, I don't know how to take that. And I do
Mm-hmm.
cry, but like I'm human. Everyone's human. But the most you can ignore it, and just fucking do it. You never know how happy it's gonna make you. I like the little transition videos. Those are always fun to make.
Yeah,
A little
no,
stressful, but
definitely. No, I mean, I agree. And it's, you know, like I said, you know, what we're doing is raising awareness. And I know that you had started out by saying that you still kind of feel like you're one of those creators. And I'm definitely not saying that I disagree, but I mean, clearly you're not to that T what you're saying you are, because you're on this podcast, you know, like you
oh
connected with
yeah.
me, you didn't know me. So, you know, what I'm getting at is that clearly you were able to find a way to get out of your comfort zone, even though, you know, even though you may not be fully comforting. I know that we had our little pre-call and stuff before this, which, you
Yeah.
know, obviously made you feel better. But, you know, how would you know, what advice would you give to creators? I mean, you know, yeah, you're at that point, you're on face cam now, you're not doing makeup, you're reaching out and you're collabing, and like, you know, I get it that you say that you are one of those creators, but you're kind of not, and you kind of set an example for other creators. So what would be your advice on what you did to finally be, just wake up one day and be like, you know what? Who cares?
My only advice is fuck it. The only way, not to be rude, that I knew about you
Oh, that's
was
fine.
the
Doesn't bother me.
the podcast with Redhead Vixen.
Hmm.
And when I saw that I had a message from you, I was like, he looks really familiar. So seeing that background that you have already talked to someone that I trust and I hadn't heard anything negative about it.
Hmm.
She had posted about it and like I didn't see anything. I was like, okay, like why not? And I have been on a little hiatus due to being sick, personal life,
Hmm.
work. So I really haven't been doing anything content wise. So I was like, fuck it. What if it's a good way to get back into it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I appreciate your time. I'm very thankful for you
Yeah.
to be on here, and that doesn't upset me a bit. I mean,
Okay.
everybody's got to make their mark. Everybody's got to collab, and I don't care how it happens. I'm just focused on that it does happen, and that's like I said at the beginning of this call. I mean, when you think of podcasts and you think of collabing, you think of a bunch of drama, hot topics, and creators that
Yeah.
you're competing against and stuff. And mine is completely different, and I'm kind of glad that you would brought that up because again, it doesn't offend me. It shows me the fact that I'm raising awareness, and it's just
Mhm.
like at the beginning of this talk. I told you that something super simple on my Twitter page is that all the guests are followed, and again, that's not a flex. Just saying, look at all these members. It's showing you, just like how I reached out to you, you utilize that. Now, one of the creators that I connected with, you vouch for and you really like, and they're a part of your community,
Yeah.
and they are, they kind of build my resume, and I feel like that's the important advice that I would give to creators. That the question that I just asked you for people that are uncomfortable and stuff, use resources like me or creators like Pika or anybody else. I mean, clearly, if I vibe with them and I want them to take their time out of their day for me to have content and post these podcasts and stuff, they are creators that you can reach out to, people you can feel comfortable to, people that's had the same experiences of, I don't know if I should do this, I don't want to go live, I'm not feeling like it, I look nasty, I look horrible, they're going to call me ugly, whatever. Like, there's other creators that experience the same thing, so why not be on the same page together than bear that burden yourself? It doesn't make sense to me, and you are the only one that can change that circumstance. So that's kind of what I was getting into. Like I get it of your understanding of where you were, but I definitely I want to. It's not me putting down that factor. It's me wanting to kind of lift you up more and be proud of yourself because you think you're that creator, but you're not, because you're here today, and it's a proud thing to be accomplished of, because everybody has to take steps in their life, and if you don't take steps like this, you don't know what kind of opportunities you're going to have in the future. Even something simple as a podcast, I've had no problems telling guests in the future, couple months away, I don't mind bringing people back on, figuring out where they're at now and stuff. I have no problems with that. My podcast is to be able to show people where they were when they had it. Fast forward a couple months later, where are you now? What did you do differently? Where is your motivation? That's kind of the ultimate aspect of it. So I don't take offense at that at all. I think that's a beautiful thing. And again, it's creators collabing together, and it's just, at the end of the day, it's me wanting to see somebody grow. And with the community that we live in, they're like, he don't want to see me grow. And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, no, you don't. No, you clearly are in it for yourself. And I'm like, I promise, I'm not. I swear. And like that's the kind of community we're in, because it's not normalized.
Mhm.
And so, somebody has to be the voice. Somebody has to normalize it. And like I said, I was running out of content ideas, and I want to be me and get my point across. So this is the best way how.
You're doing great.
So yeah, I appreciate it. Before we end off on here, two other things, of course, is there anything upcoming that you're excited about, that you want to share with your community? Anybody watching?
I am gonna be start streaming again soon, and I did just get a sponsorship
Nice,
with a coffee company. So I'm very excited about that.
nice. Yeah, no, that's sick. I'm excited for you for sure. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you would like to say before we end off here?
Not that I can think of. Live by the fuck it, who cares rule.
I mean, it's important. Just be yourself, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. Pika, I really appreciate your time being able to be on the
Thank
podcast,
you.
share your story for not only your community, but anybody else that's tapping in. If you guys want to check her out, right below her head, you're going to see her Twitter handle in the description. It's going to be all her links. Go check her out. Show some love. Whenever she's live, tap in. Appreciate everybody watching. This has been episode 17. Very thankful to be able to be doing this and just the fact that people support it. Because again, we just need to raise awareness. There's so much negativity in this world, and I try to be some type of light in the community. So if what I do helps you, it means a lot. So thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoy Feeds Mindset episode 17. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.